Welcome to the Church of Perpetual Life. My name is Neil Vandry, and I'm your officiator here at the church, and it's great to be here with you tonight. Tonight we are in Zoom only this month, so we're only live streaming and Zooming, and that will be the case until October, when we will be hopefully meeting in person, which is our plan. We're live on YouTube tonight, and we heartily encourage everyone to join us in the Zoom if possible. Our next Zoom meeting will be the fourth Thursday in August, that's August the 25th, the fourth Thursday, and at that time we expect to have an open microphone night where you can bring all of your great ideas on health and longevity and join us. You can give a talk for 5 or 8 minutes or so and tell us about your favorite health ideas and longevity strategies. If this is your first time joining us at Perpetual Life, I'd like to invite you to join our email so that you can get updates on all that is going on with super longevity so that you may live a longer and healthier life. You can join our email list simply by emailing me directly through the website at perpetual.life. I'd like to give our creed now, our creed at Perpetual Life. We believe that all of life is sacred and that we have been given this one life to make unlimited. We believe in our Creator's divine plan for all of humanity to have infinite lifespans in perfect health and eternal joy, rendering death to be optional. By following our gospel, we achieve eternal life, creating a heaven here on earth. We follow Nikolai Fedorov, who taught that the transcendence of the Creator will only be solved when humanity, in our unified efforts, become an instrument of universal resuscitation, when the divine word becomes our divine action. And we follow Arthur C. Clarke, who said, the only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. And so we enter each day energized in spirit and empowered by the words of our prophets to live in joy, serving our Creator and all of mankind forever and ever. I'd like to share a big event that's coming up in the first week in October. You may wish to attend this. This is the RADFest, of course. The RADFest is October the 6th through the 9th in San Diego. Please go to radfest.com and sign up for this amazing event. You can use the special discount Perpetual, and with the code Perpetual, you'll be able to get 10% off. Also, another event is Aubrey de Grey is heavily involved, and he'd like you to know about this. It's the Longevity Summit Dublin in Dublin, Ireland on September 18th to the 20th. Go to longevitysummitdublin.com for details of this great event. Now, if you're not yet signed up for cryonic suspension as a plan B or however you'd like to view it, and you are curious about cryonics, feel free to connect with me or any of our members if you'd like to have some more information. We'll be very happy to get you some information on this. Also, now we have the special religious objector. We've got these religious objector to autopsy cards available for our members. If you're a cryonicist and would like a member, please send me an email with your name and address. I'm very happy to mail you one, regular mail. This church, the Church of Perpetual Life, is a science and faith-based and humanist church. Our faith is in the Creator and humanity to find ways toward healthy, unlimited lifespans. Tonight, we have a couple of surprises for you. First, we have a short talk from Danila Medvedev on the current state of cryonics in Russia. Danila is a Russian futurologist specializing in the science and future of Russia. He served as a member of the Coordinating Council of the Russian Transhumanistic Movement. Danila graduated from the International Management Institute of St. Petersburg in 2000, and the title of his master thesis was Methods of the Account of Conditions of Financing at the Estimation of Investment Projects. He's one of a group of transhumanists who gave a presentation in the Duma titled Influence of Science on Political Situations in Russia and a View into the Future. Let's welcome Danila Medvedev. Danila.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to speak at your event, and I really appreciate what you've been doing for the past years with the Church of Perpetual Life. It's an inspiration to us in Russia as well. And of course, you've managed to take the ideas of immortality and religion, which are dear to us because Nikolai Fedorov, and actually put them for the people, for the public, and make them fresh and relevant again. So thank you very much for this. And now I want to tell a little bit about what we are doing with Cryonics and life extension and related areas in Russia. And the most important thing is that we currently have an organization called Open Cryonics, which is available at cryonics.com. And this is a new cryonics group that is taking care of most of the Russian cryonics patients from Cryonics company, and is also working on developing cryonics further. One of the areas we work in is we partner with Microlab educational organization, which teaches doctors microsurgery. And we are also doing both our cryonics related practice and research, and we are also working on head transplantation research. Some of you are familiar with Professor Sergio Canavero and his plan to do a head transplantation. I believe that we have a better strategy, and there have been, of course, work by Demikhov, famous Russian surgeon and father of modern transplantology, who actually did create successful organisms with several heads, and we want to restart that work, and we're working on that in Russia. So that is something that will be directly relevant for all the neuro patients in cryonics, and also for people who want to be preserved not in cryopreservation but in living form, but for whom current anti-aging technologies are not sufficient. So I believe that in a few years we can show that we can do head transplantations on large mammals such as dogs or humans eventually, and that's something which we are working on. Another area is related to nanotechnology, and there was a release of Cryonics Revival book this year by Robert Freitas, which showed that nanotechnology remains one of the main approaches for reviving cryonics patients from biostasis. But currently, not enough is being done to develop nanomachines. So we have a few projects related to that. One of them is a NanoLab, virtual reality education and design support software, which allows creating with your own hands in VR molecular structures, and hopefully that would lead to better progress in molecular machines design. So we're working on that as well. Another area is not directly related to our bodies, but related to our brain. We are very interested in intelligence augmentation, including projects in intelligence augmentation software. We all hear every day about progress in artificial intelligence, and of course there are many hopes related to that. But in order for humans to become to stay relevant and to stay competitive, we need to augment our own thinking and not just focus on AI. And that's what we're working on, creating software for better thinking and teaching people to use that to think better. And one of the applications, finally, I want to mention is in order to understand and then cure aging, we need better system models of aging, and we're using our technologies and our software to create and improve a detailed model of aging with formal system descriptions, which hopefully will lead to much better interventions in slowing down aging and improving human life. And to tie it all together, I'm, of course, doing a lot of futurology work, presenting to companies, to government ideas and models about the future. And this year we have a 50th anniversary of the Limits to Growth report, which was based on the World Free model, which showed what will happen with our planet in terms of resources. And we are working this year on World 4, a more detailed system model of the world, which shows how all the different threads tie together: resources, nanotechnologies, AI, human longevity, etc. How we can understand what is happening in the world in general. And we are using these models to further popularize transhumanism, immortalism, cryonics, and everything that is related to this. So I hope that over the next few years there will be more interesting and exciting news coming from Russia, and not just negative news, which we hear too many this year, but things that inspire and show that life extension and cryonics are great goals and are possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Danila. That's a very good update. We appreciate that, and we share your hope for more positive things to come for all of us here in the near future. Now we have a short talk with Jose Cordero, who on the current status of cryonics in Spain. Jose Cordero is a world citizen of this small planet in a big unknown universe. He was born in Latin America from European parents, was educated in Europe and North America, and has worked extensively in Africa, Asia, Europe, and both North and South America. He has studied and visited in over 130 countries on 5 continents. I'm very pleased to say that he's also met in person our prophet Arthur C. Clarke some years ago. His most recent work, of course, is the book, The Death of Death, currently available in many languages around the world. Let's welcome Jose Cordero. Hello, Jose.
Hello, Neil, and hello, all my friends. It is a pleasure to be here with you, and also listening to Danila Medvedev, who is also a longtime friend for almost 20 years. And he visited me in Venezuela when I was living in Venezuela. We have been together also many times in Moscow, in Russia, and he showed me around the former facilities of CryoRus, that he is one of the founders of the original one. So it is really incredible what Danila has been doing and what he is doing and what he will do. It really is exciting to know about the ideas about neurotechnology, nanotechnology, head transplantation, and more cryonics that he's working on. So congratulations, Danila. And I hope that we soon stop all these useless wars. And it is really sad, all these wars. And but here we have Europe represented. You can see behind me, this is the City Hall of Madrid, the beautiful palace of Cibeles. We say it in Spanish, Cibeles, which is a Greek goddess. And there is a fantastic fountain with the goddess. And when the Real Madrid, which is the #1 soccer team, football team in the world, wins, all the fans come to this fountain, to the Cibeles fountain in Madrid, in front of the City Hall of Madrid. And I will be organizing here in Madrid the next Cryonics conference. So I want to invite you all to this conference, which is also going to be partially training. We call it the Cryonics First Response CFR training. This will be in November 12th and 13th in Madrid. And we will have also 2 days of tours so that people can see all the wonderful UNESCO World Heritage Sites that we have in Spain, one of the top countries in the world for tourism, and also the head of the WTO, which is the World Tourism Organization, which is based here in Madrid. So we will have 2 days of tours, and then we will have we will have 2 days of cryonics, real training. We will actually have a cryonics ambulance, an ambulance totally prepared for cryonics. In Europe, there are already, that I know of, basically 4 ambulances. The first one, which is in the United Kingdom, in England. The second one, which is in Amsterdam, that is the one that will be coming to Madrid. Then there is another one in Berlin, Germany, and a new one soon in Zurich, Switzerland, where there is a new cryonics facility, the newest cryonics facility in the world, which is called Tomorrow Biostasis. Tomorrow Biostasis, just north of Zurich Airport in Switzerland, north of the Rhine River, surrounded by Germany. So this is a fantastic cryonics facility. I just visited it a few months ago before it opened. They already have, I think, close to 400 members in Tomorrow Biostasis in Switzerland, but no patients yet because it's a brand new facility. But so we will have people from Tomorrow Biostasis coming here, from Encore, from Cryonics Institute, hopefully maybe from Russia, if we can get Danila to come to Madrid, even with the war, or at least to come virtually. So we want to talk about all the advances in cryonics, and a lot is happening, even in Spain. We have had 2 patients this year already, 2 cryonics patients, but they have been pets, they have been cats, they are animals, but not bad. 2 pets, 2 cats were already cryonically suspended in Spain this year, and we sent them to Cryonics Institute. Besides animals, we have had several pets in Spain and in Portugal. Some of those animals, for example, there is a Portuguese dog, which is in Cryonics in Russia. And we have also other dogs, other cats in the USA. Basically, we like to say that we have 3.5 Spanish patients. And I will explain why half. The half is not because it is the head only. No, no, no. I will explain why it is 3.5. The first 2 were 2 women from the Balearic Islands, from Mallorca, the Mallorca Island. One young lady in her 20s, and then her grandmother in her 80s. Both of them are cryonically suspended in Encore Life Extension Foundation in Phoenix, Arizona. Then there is a third patient, which was the first one in Spanish mainland, in the peninsula, Iberian Peninsula in Spain. And I was coordinating that operation with other friends, and he is only brain, head, cryonically suspended in a small facility in Germany, in Dresden, Germany. And then we had about 4 years ago, a 4th patient that is half French and half Spanish, because his children are Spanish and they live in Barcelona, in Spain. That is why I call this half patient, half French, half Spanish. And this patient is in Russia. He is in Cryonics. So basically, in terms of humans, we have 1 in Germany, 1 in Russia, and 2 in Encore, in the USA. And we have several mascots, several animals, as I mentioned, all the way, including Portugal, in Russia and in the USA. So there is also a new facility that should be starting maybe in 1 year, which is called CryoPet, for pets, cryonics for pets in the USA, in the state of Utah. So I am also very excited because pets, cryonics is also very important, because many people have pets and they love pets as part of their family. And usually you have many pets because dogs and cats, they don't live as long, and because you can have many dogs and many cats. So it would be interesting, also because it is probably easier and faster and less trouble to do cryonic suspensions of animals, like we had already 2 this year in Spain. So this is about cryonics. Is moving very fast with the opening of the new center in Switzerland and also another one in Australia, Southern Cryonics, which is in the middle of the road between the big 2 cities, between Sydney and Melbourne. So there is a new facility, Southern Cryonics. They just opened recently this year, so there are no patients there, even though they have many, many members. So this is about cryonics, which I talk about in my book. My best-selling book, which is called The Death of Death, which has been published first in Spanish, which is my mother tongue, but I have a British co-author, David Wood, who lives in London. But we wrote the book originally in Spanish, international bestseller, not only in Spain, but all the way from Mexico to Argentina. And then in Portuguese, also a bestseller in Brazil. In French, also a bestseller. In Russian, I am actually very excited because Danila wrote a nice testimonial, a nice blurb in the book. And the Russian edition has 2 different versions, and you can see it on my site, a white version and a black version. They also changed the name in Russian. In Russian, it is called Death Must Die, which is also a nice title, Death Must Die. And besides Russian, the book just came out also in Turkish, and I am really excited because Turkey is a Muslim country, even though it is a secular Muslim country. But to talk about immortality in a Muslim country is very, very exciting. And now it is coming out in Chinese and soon in German as well, the German edition. In Chinese, you can see the cover behind me. It has also a different name. The main name is called Eternal Life. You can see above my head 2 characters in Chinese that mean eternal life. And the subtitle is The Death of Death. In German, also, the book of the name has been changed to The Victory Over Death. The Victory Over Death. This is what we need. We need a victory over death, not a victory over wars. We don't need wars. What we need is cure aging, which is the #1 problem of humanity. And let me just hammer that once again. In advanced countries, in Europe, in the USA, in China, in Korea, 90% of the people, 90% die of age-related diseases. Age-related diseases kills 90% of the population. So it is true that there might be death because of wars, or terrorism, or religions, or climate change, or even accidents, and homicides, and suicides, and AIDS, and malaria, and so many other things. But you add up all of those things, and they just represent 10% of the deaths, 10%, while 90% of the deaths are because of aging. Aging is the common enemy of humanity. Aging is the enemy. The enemy is not the Ukraine, is not Russia, is not the USA. The enemy is aging. That is the real enemy. Instead of putting billions and billions of dollars on wars, we have to put it against aging. We need a war on aging, a war on aging. So anyway, my book should be coming out in more languages. And I am really excited because I organized also last month a conference in Spain. I helped in a session with Liz Parrish talking about immortality and rejuvenation technologies right after former President Barack Obama from the USA. This was a fantastic event with over 25,000 participants live, 25,000 participants live in Malaga, which is southern Spain. And then we had another event in Madrid. with Liz Parrish as well, talking about longevity, talking about immortality, talking about rejuvenation, talking about radical life extension. And as Neil pointed out, we have the largest longevity event coming up soon in San Diego, California, October 6 to October 9. You have to come. This is really incredible. The best, the biggest, the newest technologies, everything happening on longevity and rejuvenation in RAD, which means revolution against aging and death. Revolution against aging and death. And that is why I like to cry, Viva la revolución! Viva la revolución! This is what we need. This is the revolution we need. We need the revolution against aging and death. That is the real revolution. And after this fantastic event that I hope you come, then I will go to Dubai. We have a conference in Dubai, and you can see behind me, that incredible building is the new Museum of the Future. And we are going to have the Dubai Future Forum at the Museum of the Future that just opened a few months ago. And I will be talking about immortality in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. I will be talking about immortality. I'm so excited because even the Muslim countries, as I mentioned, Turkey, is beginning to understand that immortality might be real, physical, biological immortality might be real. Or Saudi Arabia, that just created a foundation called Evolution Foundation, which means health plus evolution, health and evolution, the Evolution Foundation in Saudi Arabia, that will invest at least $1 billion per year in rejuvenation technologies. I repeat, $1 billion per year out of Saudi Arabia, the Evolution Foundation. This is brand new. It begins this year from Saudi Arabia. And then in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, we will be talking also about immortality, which is Plan A. I like to talk always about Plan A, and I think we will make it because according to my friend Ray Kurzweil, and I am waiting for his new book that he's just finishing, The Singularity is Nearer. He talks about 2 dates. The first date is 2029, 2030 for longevity escape velocity. Longevity escape velocity means that if you make it to 2030, for every year you survive, you gain another extra year of life. So you live 1 year, you get an extra year. So this will allow you to live long enough to live forever, as long as you want. Longevity escape velocity by 2029 to 2030. And then biotechnology and medicine will keep on advancing and elongating our lifespans, extending our lifespans until 2045 at the latest, when we will reach immortality via rejuvenation technologies, which is important because even if we reach longevity escape velocity, we still will be aging until we have rejuvenation technologies. And we expect to have those, I repeat, at the latest by 2045, according to my friend Ray Kurzweil, author of the coming up best-selling book next year, The Singularity is Nearer. And he was co-founder of Singularity University, where he was a founding faculty during the first 5 years. And he's also director of engineering of Google. So Ray Kurzweil, in his new book, he ratified reaching longevity escape velocity by 2030 at the latest, and reaching rejuvenation technologies and immortality by the year 2045. So we will be talking about that at RADFest. If you join us at RADFest, please, we will be talking about that in Dubai Future Forum the week right after RADFest. and also in Madrid in November 12, 13, and also join us for the tours on November 10, 11, here in beautiful Madrid. So these are my news about longevity, rejuvenation, and cryonics from Spain. This is moving fast and it will continue moving. So please join this movement, help us go forward, because we are between the last mortal generation and the first immortal generation. So my question to you is, where do you want to be? Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Hey, spectacular. We appreciate your point of view, and I'm with you. Viva la revolución against aging and death. We're with you on that point. Okay. So, unfortunately, David Pierce has had an unexpected emergency and will be unable to be with us here tonight. But luckily, we do have an encore presentation with Bill Faloon. Now, Bill Faloon will be our speaker tonight, and he's one of the co-founders of the Revolution Against Aging and Death, or the RAD Festival, and a founder of a number of organizations to promote unlimited lifespans. He is the director and co-founder of a world-famous consumer advocacy organization that funds research and disseminates information to consumers about optimal health. He's a cornerstone of radical extension and a major force in cryonics. Bill has made hundreds of media appearances, including guest spots on The Phil Donahue Show, Tony Brown's Journal, ABC News 1. Motherboard Vice has been interviewed by Newsweek and dozens, if not hundreds, of other magazines, newspapers, and prominent online blogs and other news sources. So now we bring to you Mr. Bill Faloon. Tonight, Mr. Faloon's giving a presentation on age reversal updates, dietary priorities, and a brief history of our church. Let's welcome the founder of the church, Bill Faloon.
I may need that. We'll have to see. Well, welcome to this beta test of the Church of Perpetual Life. We've not done a service here yet, and I haven't been here since I looked at the building about 8 months ago. I'm going to talk about a little bit the history of the church we founded back in 2013 in Hollywood. This is the front of the building, and we had some rather impressive speakers show up to give presentations. One of them was Martine Rothblatt. She is the co-founder of Sirius Satellite Radio, and she literally developed some of the technologies that involved that radio network to work worldwide. And she then moved into biotech, where she is working on ways to make unlimited supplies of organs available for transplants, kidneys, livers, hearts, for people who are literally dying every day for lack of an organ transplant. And her focus now is on developing artificial intelligence to enable transhumanism to become real, for us to merge into the cloud and have perpetual life. She was reported in Forbes magazine to be the highest paid female CEO in the United States at one point in time, and she continues doing spectacular work out of Melbourne and New York. And she, by the way, does have a transhumanist church in Melbourne, very different than this church, but she set up her own church to get the word out the way I'm doing it here in the Pompano Beach area. We've had Aubrey de Grey talk at our facility, and he was here at least twice putting on presentations. And by the way, to get a ticket to see these people talk at regular conferences can cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. They come to this church, they charge nothing as an honorarium, and you get to listen to what they have to say instead of paying a lot of money and having to travel all over the world. And Liz Parrish, she was here during our last service. Our last service was February 2020. And then, of course, the plague hit, and we had to shut down for a period of 2 years. But Liz Parrish was here. She also is a person who lectures at very high-end events about the potential of gene therapy to induce age reversal. So the problem was, in our church in Hollywood, we were running out of room. We could fit people up into the chapel area pretty well, but downstairs in the dining hall, we simply were running out of table space, and that's one of the most important elements of what this church does, and that is we interact with each other. People interact and convey and communicate, and when we were running out of room, we were having a problem. So we needed to find a larger location. Neil spent an inordinate amount of time locating this church, years, and a tremendous amount of work, by the way, making the transition from Hollywood up here to Pompano Beach. So we really want to applaud Neil for what he did. It was absolutely incredible. Some memories of the previous services where we had lots of people and not enough table space to accommodate them. And so when we saw this church being promoted, we fell in love with it, but another buyer, unfortunately, was in the way. And that buyer didn't come through, and the people who had the church honored their commitment to sell it to us at a substantially discounted price compared to where the market value was. And we've got the nice hall outside with round tables, so we got plenty of room to interact with each other, and we've got a campus outside. By the way, it's not just a church we're in. We also acquired, with his church property, a school with 5 classrooms. We can eventually set up a biotech school for people to come who want to figure out ways to let science enable their lifespan to enhance. 3 acres of land, plenty of parking. We never have to worry about parking again like we did at the other church. And this square represents the actual church property. It's about 3 acres in a fantastic area of Pompano Beach, easy to get to off of I-95, and frankly, a lot closer to me in Boca Raton. I was challenged to get down to Hollywood for a lot of those services. So, what's the premise of this church? Why did we set this up? Well, I read a book long ago written by Nikolai Fedorov where he talked about the Creator's plan was for mankind, e.g. us, to develop the technologies that will enable the transformation of life into an era of perpetual abundance. Perpetual abundance. This is what he predicted. And a lot of people ask about evidence. Well, what's backing up this contention that people are going to live a lot longer? Well, I've shown this before, but it's worth repeating. Nikolai Fedorov died in 1903, and within 96 years of his death, lifespan went from 47 years in the United States to about 79 years. I mean, that's a huge advance. And the most common causes of death back in 1900, most of those have largely been eradicated. And you look at what's happened since year 2000. We've got 43% more Americans living to age 100 compared to year 2000. This was a study that looked at mortality in the United States between year 2000, 2014, and a 43% increase in the number of people reaching age 100. This is spectacular. And where you live, that has a lot to do with how long you're going to live. When you live in areas like Mississippi and West Virginia, you see some people practicing very dangerous lifestyle habits, eating the wrong kind of foods, smoking, tobacco use, lack of physical activity, and guess what? They don't live as long. This map shows the white areas where people die sooner. The darker areas are where people live longer. And in Hawaii, wow, you get to live about 81 years on average compared to Mississippi, only about 74 years. And this has a lot to do with people who emulate bad behaviors or good behaviors. And if you live in a place like South Florida, you'll see people often engaging in healthy behavior patterns, and you'll feel, well, maybe that's something I should be doing. If you live in Mississippi and you see people eating the worst kind of food in the world and engaging in all kind of dangerous lifestyle practices, you might emulate that, and then you wind up dying sooner. And, well, what time in history you are at dictates how long you're going to live. 1969, deaths from heart attacks in the United States peaked at 520 people per 100,000 were dying of heart disease. And you move forward to 2014, that number drops to only 167. That's a 68% decline in just 45 years in the number of people dying from the most common cause of death. It still is heart disease, but there's lots of ways to prevent it. Many of you are following those practices now. Now, here's an individual who was born simply too soon. He had his first heart attack in 1955 at the age of 46. Back in the 1950s, they did not know how to treat coronary artery atherosclerosis. They didn't know what caused it. They didn't know how to reverse it. And he suffered, Lyndon Johnson, with angina pain until 1968. And here he is at age 59. Most of us would consider that a prime time. I mean, I'm 67 years of age and doing more than I've ever done. But Lyndon Johnson did not have access to the technology that I do. And so he wound up resigning. And then, of course, he wound up dying. And this is the report that I remember seeing as a kid on TV, announcement by Walter Cronkite.
I'm talking to Tom Johnston, the press secretary for Lyndon Johnson. It was reported that the 36th President of the United States died this afternoon. He died of a heart attack. He had been suffering from a heart ailment for some time. He'd had two serious previous heart attacks, one as recently as a couple of months ago. He had been back at his ranch, though, and seemed to be in reasonably good health in recent weeks.
Now you look at the people who followed Lyndon Johnson, the leaders of this country. They had the identical problem, occluded coronary arteries, but they had access to technology, medications, lifestyle changes, and of course bypass and stents. And Bill Clinton, George Bush, they're 75 years of age. They're still alive. Dick Cheney, he had multiple interventions that saved his life. He even wrote a book to describe the miracles of modern medicine, how he is only alive at the age of 81 because of technology advancing. The faster we advance technology, the longer we all get to live. But this is a real stark example of people in our lifetime. Everyone here, I think, remembers Lyndon Johnson, 59, he was washed up. Well, the other guys, they were born a little bit later. They availed themselves to technology so that they could live longer. So we are in the same predicament today. Same predicament. We, unfortunately, know about a lot of technologies that are emerging. Fantastic news. We know about that information, but we're also aging. So we need to accelerate the pace of anti-aging research, bring in clinical trials faster so we don't find ourselves dying of an illness that may be only 5 or 10 years away from being treatable and even curable. So this is one of the big changes that we are able to facilitate by meetings like this and through the research we're funding. So Nikolai Fedorov talked about, if man does not know what to do, he will do what he should not do. And that is what is going on outside of this chapel around most of the country. People are misbehaving. And what my job is to let you know what you should be doing to enhance your ability to stay healthy and stay alive. Now, February 20th, 2020, that's the last time we talked to this church, I talked about intermittent fasting, and the data since then has gotten better to substantiate that. I was basing that talk on the New England Journal of Medicine, December 26, 2019. They did an incredible review article on the benefits of time-restricted eating, also known as intermittent fasting. And the evidence is if you can fast most days 16 to 18 hours, you're going to trigger all kind of benefits in your body that's going to enable you to live longer. In the animal model, these are the benefits of intermittent fasting. You get all of these benefits that some people are taking gobs of prescription medications and other types of therapies to protect against, and maybe all they needed to do was intermittently fast. These are the human benefits that have been consistently shown in response to time-restricted eating, where you'll fast for 14 to 18 hours most days, and then just eat your calories between like 6 and 8 hours most days. The data is unreal. So that was February 2020, I was talking about that. Study came out in October 2020 about just 14 or 15 hours a day of fasting, weight loss, reductions in blood pressure, cancer risk reductions, immune system enhancement, all of this in response to just not eating food all day long, which a lot of people nowadays have gotten into the bad habit of doing. And study after study is validating the virtues of intermittent fasting. And the best I can do is espouse that type of eating pattern. I follow it myself, where I will pretty much go 16 to 18 hours most days, not even hungry. You can drink black coffee, green tea, black tea. Just stay away from the sugar, any kind of nutrients for your body, and your body will then cleanse itself internally. And even the animal studies, where they induce calorie restriction and enable longevity to occur, most of those benefits, they occurred because the animals ate all the food at once and remained without food for most of the day. It's just absolutely amazing. So consistent data being published that if you time restrict your eating, don't eat all day long, in other words, you're going to live longer, you're going to avoid a lot of the problems that people are suffering from and having stents put in, bypass procedures, malignancies develop, just all kind of problems. If you happen to have cancer, well, intermittent fasting looks like a great way to adjuvantly treat it. In other words, you go through whatever therapy you need to eradicate that tumor, but if you just restrict your eating to 6 to 8 hours a day, all kind of beneficial metabolic effects occur in your body to enable you to better combat that cancer. So this is what came out in January 2022, a study showing cancer patients should consider intermittent fasting. It would be a good idea. Now, I was at a checkout counter at Whole Foods, and I noticed a prevention magazine, and I saw on the cover, Slow Down Aging. And I said, well, that's rather strange, because a lot of you may not realize prevention has been rather hostile towards me, towards many groups that I've set up, because they thought aging is a natural phenomenon that we shouldn't interfere with. So for decades, prevention would advocate people eat healthy, engage in healthy behavioral patterns, but don't do anything radical to deal with aging, because it's natural. We're all supposed to go through that. Well, I bought the Prevention magazine, and lo and behold, everything you've heard at this church since our founding in 2013, all of the aggressive interventions, including intermittent fasting, metformin, sirtuin activation, plasma exchange, senolytic drugs, all those concepts, they were in this article. And I want to compliment Prevention for coming up to speed, for joining our current era where people are intervening to slow down aging and even reverse it. So we're getting more and more mainstream publications recognizing aging is something that we can deal with now. So what is the key to super longevity that we may be able to utilize in the near future? This is a little bit of a science lesson, but I want everyone to understand. Transcription factors, they act like a light switch. They turn genes on, turn genes off, and when we're young, wow, they're all working in perfect symphony, perfect harmony. But when we get older, unfortunately, they go out of whack. So a transcription factor are proteins that turn on and off specific genes. Activating transcription factors will turn on gene expression, and the ones that suppress it, those are ones that we want to be able to control so that we can enable, at some point when we perfect the ability of transcription factors to tightly regulate our gene expression, literally enable our old cells to be reprogrammed back into embryonic cells capable of developing into all tissues of the body. So this is the Nobel Prize 2012. Researchers identified transcription factors, 4 of them, that were enabled to take old cells and convert them back into pluripotent stem cells called Yamanaka factors. And this motivated us to look into the research. A number of prestigious journals have written about how simple it is. This deals with hematopoietic stem cells, and they were able to use Yamanaka factors to transform them back into early stage cells and then differentiate them back into healthy hematopoietic cells. Hematopoietic cells, by the way, are what builds most of your immune system, your red blood cell production, your platelet production. When your bone marrow gives out, meaning your hematopoietic stem cell and mesenchymal stem cell niche is worn out, you die. You cannot sustain your life when you have these problems. This is another diagram to show how simple it is to use Yamanaka transcription factors to reverse aging, to take old cells, transform them back into young cells. So Scientific American published an article in 2016 about the age reversal benefits that were being seen in the laboratory, mainly cells, parabiosis research in which old animals seem to be partially growing younger. And well, that's good that they did that, but I was growing impatient. I mean, time was moving, I was getting older, and this research was not advancing as fast as it should have. So what I did is commissioned a study of a review of all of the published literature about transcription factors being used to reverse aging. And by getting this published in a respected journal, it lets scientists around the world read this and realize that we may have the technology available right now to meaningfully induce age reversal in people. And what we proposed in this article was using a 6-factor transcription factor cocktail, the 4 Yamanaka factors plus 2 additional ones to induce systemic age reversal. And this is the game plan. And we are going to be starting doing this as soon as next month. This is how much of in a hurry we are to make this happen. But you take an older person and you simply do a skin punch test to remove their fibroblasts. Remove those, put them into a petri dish, and then introduce those 4 Yamanaka factors plus 2 additional ones. And what you get are autologous induced pluripotent stem cells. Autologous meaning they're the same DNA as the person that they were removed from. That's very important because you don't want someone else's stem cells being put into your body. That could cause that graft versus host reaction, which can be a real bad problem. So you take these induced pluripotent stem cells, differentiate them into tissue-specific progenitor cells. Those can then be put back into the same person who donated them, put back into their body for the purpose of systemic age reversal. This is a project that some very aggressive scientists are pursuing right now. This research is going on right now with people, perhaps, and definitely with animals, to reverse aging. If this works, by the way, we're all going to live a lot longer because we're going to regenerate our bone marrow. So blood is something that is produced essentially in our bone marrow, blood cells, and people don't realize how active our bone marrow is. I mean, 1,000 billion blood cells are produced every single day. And when our bone marrow gets too old, well, we just don't, or we're not able to sustain life. And as it relates to the current situation, our immune systems, older people suffer immune senescence. That's due mainly to bone marrow failure, thymic atrophy, a few different factors. But this brilliant scientist was able to do something unprecedented in 2017. He was able to take old cells, old hematopoietic cells, and transform them, reprogram those cells back into young, healthy hematopoietic stem cells, put them back into living mice, and showed fantastic regenerative effects. He's now doing a lot of leukemia research. We are petitioning him to get back into the age reversal arena because while leukemia and other hematological malignancies kill a lot of people, aging is going to kill us all. So we're hoping this brilliant researcher will get back into the business of figuring out how to make us all young by rewriting the rules of biology. And bear in mind, 2006, cell reprogramming was first demonstrated. In 2011, they took cells from a 100-year-old person and they brought them back into an embryonic stage using the Yamanaka and other types of transcription factors. And the research is going on right now to figure out how we can do that in people, in vivo, in whole people. So what was considered impossible before 2006, it was proven to be doable, and the rules of biology have forever changed. So last year at RADFest, I proposed some research be done where we use some senolytics to remove old bone marrow, senescent cells in our bone marrow, and then replace those with reprogrammed autologous pluripotent stem cells, and do the same thing with transcription factors to produce autologous mesenchymal stem cells for system-wide regeneration. And if this works in people, it would mean we're going to live a lot longer. We're not going to suffer the catastrophic illnesses that plague elderly individuals. And what's fantastic is, just a couple of weeks ago, if you missed this, I understand. There's been a lot of news media coverage about other topics. But for the first time, scientists were able to use this type of technology to reverse aging in live mice. It received a lot of coverage on the scientific websites. This came out of the Salk Institute, by the way, in which they were able for the first time to induce partial age reversal using Yamanaka factors to reprogram these animals while they're still alive. They were able to induce this benefit, not just in a petri dish, in live mice. And the Salk Institute issued a press release. It got a lot of media coverage, as I said, but there's so much media out there. If you missed it, I understand. Reversing aging of these animals back down to a youthful state. And they were able to show that their skin, organs in their body were epigenetically younger using the clock of DNA methylation. These animals at the cellular level were younger. They were looking younger. They were behaving younger, lower inflammation, reduced senescent cells. All of the benefits that we're looking for, they were able to achieve using cellular reprogramming Yamanaka factors. And what they found is there weren't any of the feared side effects, no malignancies, none of the toxicity concerns that people have been concerned about. And they showed that the more that they introduced the Yamanaka factors, the more consistently they did it, the better the results. So this study uncovered a lot of information that we didn't quite know. Now that we know it, we can take this research a step forward. We can move it forward, which is absolutely fantastic. And these are some of the ways that they were able to make this happen. And I know some of this is technical, but one of the reasons I put these technical slides up is we have scientific people who review what I'm talking about. They review my slides. And if they can see how easy it is to use just Yamanaka factors alone to reprogram cells in a living mouse and enable that mouse to reverse aging, we're hoping they'll carry that research forward, move it faster. So partial reprogramming of the most important organs in our body was accomplished in live mice. Earth-shattering news, and regrettable, it didn't make more media coverage. These are some of the researchers at the Salk Institute that made it happen. We applaud them. They're continuing to work to refine us. This is all the work that we said was going to happen back in 2013. It's happening right now before our eyes. These old animals resembled younger animals, and their epigenetic clock went in reverse in a live animal, not in a test tube, not in a way that it's normally done. So, the billionaires, I've complained a lot about them because they don't always write the kind of checks they should to research. But because of the findings that keep emanating out of these laboratories, beginning of this year, a $3 billion commitment from some of the more famous younger billionaires to find a way to reverse aging. They got all this money. The only problem they have in life is aging and death. And once that problem goes away, well, we're all going to be better off. So good news is money being put into research. And as it relates to where we are in history, well, think about this. Since 1900, there's been more technology advances, way more than the previous 8,000 years of recorded history. To think about that should let you then think about where we're going to be in 10 years, 20 years, 20 years from now. Wow. We're going to be potentially living forever. So we have to accelerate the pace of research. We have to prioritize this as the #1 reason why people get up in the morning and go to work and self-experiment, communicate, educate your friends that history is on our side. We're making that progress right now. And for those who missed it, yeah, the entire human genome, 100%. Has been sequenced. A lot of people thought, by the way, in 2003 they had done it, but they had really only done 92%. That missing 8% meant a lot. And, well, they now have it 100% sequenced. Look forward to lots and lots of advances in gene therapy. Wall Street Journal reported on it. All kind of media talked about the fact that we now have sequenced the whole human genome. But what are we going to do to stay alive long enough to benefit from it? I'm getting back now into how we behave. And the Mediterranean diet, we've long advocated that. A study came out, British Journal of Nutrition, showing a 25% reduced risk of death in people who follow this Mediterranean diet. And then the evidence kept building. More and more studies came out showing that you increase your risk of dying by a huge margin, 46% higher, if you eat the typical American diet, which is unhealthy. But if you follow a more Mediterranean diet, you reduce your risk of sudden death 26%. And this study came out. This is the largest study ever to evaluate the effects of diet on lifespan. And the headline of CNN said, if you change your diet, you can add 13 years to your life. But there's a little caveat to that. You have to start changing your diet at age 20. in order to get that 13 years. But I'll tell you, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, because we analyzed this. This was one of the larger studies done. If you start at age 60, eating an optimal diet, which I'm going to describe in the next few slides, if you start at age 60, a woman adds 8 years to her life, but a man, he gets to add a lot more time. He gets to add 8.8 years. Now, why does it work better in men and women? Well, one big reason is men tend to eat less healthy than women. So when they switch to an optimized diet, they gain more time. So at age 60, optimize your diet, and you gain 8 to 8.8 years of additional life. And that 8 years may mean the difference between you benefiting from these incredible advances in gene therapy, or unfortunately being one of those people who just missed the boat. So the type of foods that enable people to live longer, legumes, whole grains, nuts, less red meat, less processed meat. They did this study so meticulously, they would tell you how many extra years you get if you eat more of the right foods as opposed to continuing to eat the wrong foods. So the components of an optimized diet: legumes, whole grains, nuts, and of course avoiding the bad stuff. So the legumes, by the way, people ask what that is. Well, this is what they are basically: beans and peas and lentils. If you put these into your regular diet, you're going to live a lot longer. And they were able to validate that in a major way. So if man does not know what to do, and that's most people in this country, by the way they're eating, they're going to do what they shouldn't do. And what you shouldn't do is eat these foods. These are the foods that are killing Americans today. Used to be tobacco. It still is to some extent. But unfortunately, most people are consuming the wrong kind of foods, and they are prematurely dying. So an optimized diet does not include this stuff. This is what you stay away from. And instead, you eat the healthy stuff. We've got an obesity epidemic right now. And what that is doing, by the way, is reversing the gains made against cardiovascular disease. We now have more people getting heart attacks, having heart attacks, because their diets are so poor. So what we're going to be advocating continuously to remind people: eat healthy, live longer. What we're going to serve tonight for dinner, I'd like to think, is going to be a healthy way to eat their calories. So if we are age 20, as I said, and we follow that optimized diet, we get that huge benefit, that huge increase in lifespan. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't avoid that. The Mediterranean diet is what we're advocating. And if you're 80, by the way, well, you get some benefit. But I really want to emphasize, for those who are 80 in this room, eating healthy will buy you more time. Very well validated. I've tried to make it as simple as I can with these slides, that if we can avoid the bad stuff, and the bad stuff, by the way, on the right-hand side of that slide are the red arrows going down: red meat, processed meat, sweetened drinks, refined grains, eggs. Those are things that cause us to die sooner. If we eat more legumes, whole grains, nuts, fish, fruit, vegetables, we live longer. And I think most of us have known that, but this study validated it in the biggest way that it's ever been done. For those who are not going to change their diet or want to add some extra benefit, rapamycin. It has some of the calorie restriction benefits to it, and a lot more. In studies in mice, up to a 60% increase in life expectancy. A brand new mechanism has been identified as to why rapamycin enhances lifespan. We already know rapamycin induces healthy autophagy. It turns down excess mTOR. Those are two cellular activities that you want to have happen. In other words, more autophagy, which is cellular housekeeping, and less excess mTOR, which causes the accumulation of, well, a lot of fat and a lot of malignancies, a lot of problems. But this new study showed that rapamycin reduces the errors that occur in protein synthesis. And a lot of us don't realize that our cells are constantly synthesizing new proteins. Once that machinery breaks down, we die. It's really that simple. Rapamycin reduces the errors that occur as we get older as it relates to protein synthesis. This study published talked about the 60% increase in lifespan, and even people who started early or late in life, animals that start late in life, they still get about an extra 7 years of a human equivalent lifespan. It's really amazing how that works. So we've got more and more people studying rapamycin. These registries are open for people who have been using rapamycin for the last 4, 5, 6 years, so these researchers can find out how well is it really working in people. We've got this registry set up. There's a study going on right now for people who want to get their hands on rapamycin at a very reasonable price. Enroll in this study. Your cost is $360. It was going to cost $1,200. And then some wealthy people said, well, we want to see these results. So they wrote some checks, and they received $485,000 of funding so they could reduce the price people paid to participate from $1,200 to $360. And that includes blood tests, includes rapamycin, which is an expensive drug. That's a website that you can register if you want to participate in this study. It is a not-for-profit study. No one's trying to make rapamycin a drug. But what they're looking at, by the way, is visceral fat, bone density. They want to see if rapamycin is going to improve people's overall state of health, and they're going to try different doses of it. And the Mayo Clinic, they're doing a study on rapamycin to treat heart failure, to see if it can improve cardiac output. This is an ongoing study, and if they're still taking people, you might want to contact Mayo and see if you can enroll if you have a cardiac problem. This very well may be a way to save your life. University of Washington, they are also doing studies on dogs, and they're evaluating people to see how well rapamycin is slowing aging and maybe even reversing it. So a group, Bold Integrity Research, this group is putting money into small studies that will seek to identify what may or may not work in people. So they put up $26 million, and they're going to divvy that up in $500,000 mini grants, and they're going to make decisions in just 3 weeks. If someone has a concept that might reverse aging, they'll put up to $500,000 into that concept to see how quickly that research can be done, to see how fast we can reverse aging in our bodies. Now, for people who question whether or not this is really going to happen in our lifetime, you travel back to 1903, and this glider with a little engine attached to it takes off, flies 120 feet, 20 feet off the ground. It makes international headline news. But nobody thought that this was ever going to evolve into anything beyond a hobby, something for people to do on a Sunday afternoon if they were bored. No one predicted that there would be flying buses. No one predicted that, but 54 years later, it happened. Flying buses around the world. All the reasons why it couldn't happen were resolved and figured out, and planes right now, of course, flying all around the world. We've got a rover on Mars, traveling around Mars, being controlled from the Earth. And this was out of the Wall Street Journal. They were talking about this flying helicopter that's also on Mars, being controlled from Earth, and saying, well, gee, in 1903, they took a plane 120 feet on a beach. Now we've got something on Mars. So if you extrapolate that via just the cellular reprogramming that we're talking about, extrapolate that in a way. So 1903, the first flying machine flies 120 feet. 2021, a robot and helicopter sent to Mars, 140 million miles. That's a big difference in just 118 years. Well, in 2011, they took cells from a 100-year-old person, and they fully regenerated those cells using those Yamanaka factors. 2022, as I just announced, they were able to use Yamanaka factors to reprogram cells in a live mice, and reverse their aging process. Where we're going to be in the next 10 years, we all could be younger. We could theoretically be younger. It's been proven to work in a live animal for the first time. That occurred just basically a month and a half ago. This was announced. Aging being put in reverse, prestigious institute doing it, and we talk about the common task of humanity, why this church was founded. Well, I want to change that word task because the Nikolai Fedorov, he was a Russian, and some of the Russian terminology is different. So what I want to change that to is common duty of humanity. And that's a duty that we all have. Every one of us should feel the duty to educate our friends, enlighten them as to what they can do to live longer, what they can do to help support research that could accelerate the development of technologies that puts us in that position. So I just changed that slide to change it from common task to it being our duty. It is our duty to investigate information, self-experiment, report what we're doing to others, and work as a group, work as a community to extend our healthy human lifespan. This was, I think, the last time I talked. And what I'm going to do is just play a couple excerpts. We've gotten some interesting media coverage.
We're here at the Church of Perpetual Life, the world's first transhumanist church.
We feel the Creator intended for mankind to develop these technologies that will result in humans living for indefinite time periods. We are fighting against involuntary death and view immortality as the ultimate solution to every problem mankind faces. Yeah, that was back in, I think, 2015 when they filmed that, and it made a lot of people aware that we exist. And that's one of the reasons we set the church up, to let the public know that there is an organization, a group in Germany. They have almost like a 60 minutes TV program called Galileo. And they flew over here from Germany and did a little story on our Church of Perpetual Life. I'll play a few excerpts here.
Bill Faloon, 64 Jahre alt. Okay, dafür hat sich gut gehalten. Für jemand, der ewig leben will, ist heute sein furchtbarster Tag. Denn heute ist Bills Geburtstag.
So the media continues to give the concept of age reversal very favorable coverage. This was a CBS News report, November 2021. But they're talking about the fact that something that most people considered impossible is occurring today in the laboratory model. And I believe it's occurring right now in people who are self-experimenting with the right technologies. And unfortunately, there are people with a lot of money who, I'd like to say, misplace the priorities. They often donate to a lot of charities. It's nice, but they don't donate to the kind of charities that can enable them to stay alive. I don't know what I would do if I ever had $6 billion, but you can imagine it would be some very interesting work. Because I'm not of that category, unfortunately. But I can't imagine having $6 billion and aging and not doing something rather radical with that money. Be it funding 100 different scientists who each one may have a concept, let them prove that concept or disprove it. But the idea of dying with this kind of money just seems improbable. And yet the younger billionaires, they are putting the big money in. Jeff Bezos, Peter Thiel, pretty much all of them are engaged in some sort of funding for aging research. They realize they got everything in the world except indefinite life. And since they've accomplished the impossible in their businesses, they're seeking to do that. So big money is being put into aging research, but I just don't trust it. I trust what I'm doing a little bit more because I've been doing this, frankly, my whole life. I've been interacting with scientists since the 1970s as it relates to aging. And these individuals, well, they're writing big checks, but they're not actively engaged. But they are hiring some very smart people, and I compliment them for that. They, by the way, have hired Mr. Yamanaka, Dr. Yamanaka, Steve Horvath, to develop the Horvath clock to measure epigenetic age. So they have hired the right people. So in that regard, I'm very grateful. So the common duty is to educate, acknowledge to your friends that you're seeking to live a lot longer, and there's ways to do it right now if you follow the right
Who says
patterns.
I have to die? Death is horror. It shouldn't happen to anybody.
And that concludes the talk. And the idea is to let you know that aging has been reversed in live mice. That would have been a headline news story if it was not for the war and other issues. So we at least understand that's happening. And the fact that the scientific community knows it's happening means look forward to more advances. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that people have in the audience. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for joining us this evening. I want to thank you for being with us at our event tonight, and also remind you that the event tonight has been recorded. So there will be a recording available after we have closed completely tonight, and you can find it on our YouTube channel. You go to our website, click on the YouTube channel, and you'll go right to this event. Feel free to share it with your friends and your families and all the people that you love who you want to tell about age reversal and the important things that you've learned tonight. I'd also like to let you know that your donations are gratefully accepted, and you can donate through the PayPal link on our website as well. Our event next month will be on the 4th Thursday again, the August 25th at the same time. And next month we have an open microphone night, so bring your great ideas on health and longevity. Thanks again, and we'll see you next month.